All right, and welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we've got another great guest. We've got Adelfina Milici. Am I saying that name right?
Yes, you can call me Adele for short if that's easier.
Adele. All right. Well, we
Okay.
got Adele on. She's an actress and singer from New York. Is that right?
I'm actually in New Jersey, but I go into New York a lot for the gigs.
Gotcha. Well, New York, New Jersey. You
Yeah,
just
I'm
go over
local.
a bridge.
Yeah.
And today she's going to tell us a little bit about her work and what she does and what her current and future projects are. But before we dive in, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think of the guests and the movies that we review, and be sure to check out other content on the channel. And remember, Bushwhacker season 2 is currently out, and part 3 has already dropped, where the terrible trio travel to Egypt to murder their third target. And part 4 will conclude the 4-part special, where they travel to Eastern Europe to take down their last target. But will they succeed? Tune in to find out. But let's go ahead and dive in. Adele, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always excited about having people on the podcast, and it's not just because I'm desperate for guests, even though that's part of it, but I genuinely love hearing about other people's stories because of the fact that everybody has an interesting story to tell, even if ostensibly they don't seem to have anything going on, even if they're just sitting on a park bench, just looking a bit sheepish. Um, but I just want to have keep this interview pretty organic. So
Okay.
you kind of just tell me the story of yourself and your life. So why don't you go ahead and start from the beginning? Just tell us a little bit about where you came from, what you were doing, and how you got to where you are right now.
Well, uh,
It's a loaded question, I
how far
know.
you want to go back? I've been married for 32 years, so and I have 2 adult children. Uh, so I, pretty much was, a stay-home mom, but I did part-time work, so, but then when my kids, got, grew up and they're out of the house and they're on their own, I said, I got to do something. I have more time to do things for myself now.
Mhm.
So I have more time to exercise. I have more time, for myself. So I, started selling the direct selling line of Swarovski jewelry, the touchstone crystal. And
Yeah.
so I was, doing vendor events, fundraisers, hosting shows, video tutorials, about the jewelry. But my favorite part was modeling the jewelry. And everybody's like, "Oh wow, that outfit looks good with that with that piece of jewelry. Oh wow, and this and that." And I really, loved that part of it. And then when COVID hit, because I started in 2019. So then when COVID hit, it got really hard to get sales because, people were, losing jobs, and now people were focusing more on needs as opposed to wants, because jewelry is really not a need, it's a want,
Right.
you know. So it got hard to sell the jewelry. It was, it was started getting hard. And then, finally, I said, you know what, I'm gonna, close this down. I donated a whole bunch of jewelry, to the New Jersey Battered Women's Services, to women with breast cancer at the Morristown Memorial Hospital, which is a hospital literally right down the road from me. So, I started, donating, stuff. And then I said to my husband, you know what, I want to be a model. And my husband looked at me. He goes, okay, you want to be a model? And I was inspired, by this model. I don't know if you've heard of her, Kathy Jacobs.
Yeah, yeah, I have.
Yeah, so she in I think it was 2019, she was 55 years old. She was in Miami Swim Week walking down for Sports Illustrated, and she had to compete with all these young women. And women that were taller than her, because in the modeling industry, it's unheard of. You know, years ago, it was like you had to be really tall. You had to, you know, be real thin, and you had to be under the age of 30. So she wanted to like break the barrier, you know, because she's only like 5'3" and she is 55. So her husband, you know, said, boy, you're going to do this? You know, how are you going to beat all these younger girls and this and that? But she did. And she became the oldest woman to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And then after that, her career skyrocketed.
That's right. I
So
remember hearing about that. Yeah.
yeah. So when I saw her, I said, oh, wow. I said, here's a model that just started in her 50s, just like me, because I started at 55, you know, and I'm like, and I'm only 5'4", you know, I'm like the same height as, you know, almost the same height as her. And I'm like, you know, she's only maybe about 2 years older than me. And I'm like, we're similar in age. So I kind of felt like I was connected with her in a way, you know? So then I started following her, and then I would direct message her and I say, you know what, you inspired me, you know, and this and that. And she was really sweet, and she would, you know, say, oh, you know, thanks, you know, but she did inspire a lot of women, you know. So I, you know, when I started, I didn't realize how many modeling scams there were. I was new to the industry, so there was a lot of things that I didn't expect, because I just thought, oh, this is going to be easy, but it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of scams and stuff. I mean, you know, there was, you know, I mean, I can't name like all the names of the businesses because they're still in business, but I can, you know, warn people that, you know, like if there's people that are model scouting, when they model for scouts, you know, they'll say, okay, send a pic to us, and if we think you're a good model, you know, if we think you have potential, we'll call you back in, you know, we'll do a photo shoot, blah 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 blah. So, you know, I kind of like fell for it, and I said to my husband, oh, I want to do it, I want to do this, you know. So I send in my pic. The very next day, you know, the guy calls me, and they knew how old I was.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew I was 55 at the time. So the guy calls me, he goes, congratulations, out of 130 women in your age group, we chose you. I said, oh, really? He goes, yeah. And he goes, we want you to come in, do a photo shoot, bring, you know, 4 different types of outfits, they were telling me, and we'll have your hair and makeup done and this and that. I said, oh, wow. And it was in New York City. So I said, okay. So I said to my husband, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. Oh, this is awesome. Here I'm thinking it was an agency. I wasn't really thinking like, I didn't understand what model scouts were. I just didn't understand the industry. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking, oh, okay. So I go in there, I do the photo shoot, this and that. And then when everything was done, a guy calls my husband and I in the office. And then he goes, he says, here are your 30 best picks. And he just, you know, put them on like some kind of a screen. And I'm looking at them, and he goes, if you want these picks, they're going to cost $4,000. I said, are you kidding me? You know, 30.
Holy shit.
Yeah. He goes, and then, you know, and then we can do your professional website and this and that. And they made it sound like they were an agency. The way they made it sound like they were an agency, but they really weren't. So my husband looked at me, and he kind of like, he just like, he wasn't really sure about it. And I kept saying to my husband, oh, please, you know, and he said, we have rights to the photos, because any, you know, photographer, they have the rights to the photos.
So sorry to interrupt. So basically they were asking for $4,000 for you to buy the photos back from them, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, they said, you know, they didn't say, I mean, they said like, you can walk away if you don't want to do this, or, you know, if you want to start your career. You know, they were kind of like, you know, you need a portfolio, you need something, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, to start out, I just don't want anybody to spend that kind of money for 30 pictures. especially if you're starting out. And it was,
Yeah.
and you know, you don't need to do that. And then they give you a pamphlet and then they leave you to the wolves, you know, what to do next. So I was like, oh my God, you know, after when I, you know, spent all that money, I said, oh my God, what did I do? So then I said to myself, I got to go to school for this, because this is not as easy, because they made it say, oh, no experience necessary, you know, this, anybody, you know. So I went to La Creme Modeling School in April of last year, and I just graduated in June of this year. It was a one-year course, and we learned a lot about runway modeling. And, you know, we learned what a catwalk was. So for women, they have to walk like a cat, 1 foot in front of the other. So with our heels, and that wasn't easy. And we had to learn also how to pose. And, you know, as the camera's clicking, you have to do all different kinds of poses. It's not, you have to know how to pose. Like, if the photographer has to stop and tell you what to do, then, you know, that's going to be a problem. But I mean, if he knows, if you're new at it, that's different. But after a couple of photo shoots, you're on your own. You have to just keep moving and do, you know, and it's not that easy.
So it's not like being on a film set where the director kind of tells you what to do. You kind of have to have this instinct of knowing, you know, what the next, I guess, what the next, you know, shot's going to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn.
So we learned, you know, we learned about nutrition, we learned about fitness, we learned about makeup, and also it was an agency as well. She got me in on a stand-in for Miami Housewives in New York City, and then Figments of Freedom, that I was a background extra for that director, Mark Webber, and I did last year, and it's almost done. It's going to be out sooner or later soon. I can't wait for that. He's a good director. He's worked with famous people and everything, and so it's supposed to be a really good movie. And then I also did like a Colgate commercial, but she was more of a modeling school, but she had some, you know, jobs on the side, you know, but, you know, they have to call you, you know, they would look at, you know, she would, you know, give the clients, you know, the list of her data, you know, of all people in her school, like the pictures, and, you know, they'll look at people's pictures and then they'll say, okay, well, we want this person for this thing. You know, it's not like you can choose yourself. This is an industry where you don't choose yourself, they choose you.
Right.
So it's kind of like they choose you for, you know, a commercial. They choose you for even for a background extra. They choose you for, you know, if you're modeling for a fashion show, they have to, you know, if you're doing an audition for a fashion show, they have to choose you. You can't choose yourself if you're doing an audition. You know what I mean? So this is a tough industry. This is a very, very, very tough industry. They choose you. It's like modeling is, and modeling kind of like, you get pushed into acting too with it, because you have to do commercials. So you do get involved with the entertainment aspect of it too. So modeling, entertainment is an industry where they choose you. There's a lot of rejections. There's a high rejection rate. Okay. But you can't take it personally, because it's not like there's something wrong with you. It's just that you're not the right look for that part, or you're not, you know, even for agencies, you can't even choose agencies that you want to be in, because if they feel that you're not the right fit for their agency, they won't choose you. So you have like a lot of stuff you just really don't have control over. So some people, you know, after a while, they get discouraged from all the rejections and then they quit. But if you don't quit and if you're really passionate about it, eventually something will break. You know, you just have to keep at it.
Yeah, that's why you got to develop that thick skin that everybody talks about, you know?
Yes, yes. So I'm thinking this was easy. I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, oh my Lord, you know, and, you know, it's not like an easy industry, you know, modeling, entertainment, not an easy industry. So, and and when you're doing runway shows, I did so many runway shows. Behind the scenes, there's designers. The designer has to choose you, because if they make specific clothes for specific people. So if they make clothes for just like tall people and you're not tall, they're not going to choose you. If they make if they just do children's clothes, then, and you're not a child, they won't choose you. You know what I mean? So if they make clothes that are for people that are really tiny, real thin people, then they won't, they would choose you if you're tiny, So a lot of, so even behind the scenes, in a runway show, it can get a little stressful, because, you're like, oh, is this designer going to pick me? Where am I going to go? And then you have to try. And then they tell you, they can like pretty much, because they make the outfit, so they pretty much know if you're the right model for that particular outfit. They would know, because they made the outfit, and it's important to get the right model because you're advertising for them. You know what I'm saying? So you're advertising for them, so it's important to get the right model. So it's not like, it's not like, oh, I like that outfit, I'm going to wear that outfit. It doesn't work that way. It's not like a candy shop where you can pick whatever candy you like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I had posted some pics, and these were like, on my Facebook account is usually people that I go to school with that know me. And I got a little upset, because some of them were saying, oh, what kind of outfit is that you're wearing? And then finally, I'm saying, I was getting like all these insults from everybody. And then I did a video, and I said, excuse me, the designer chooses you. I don't, whether you like the outfit or not, that's not up to me. I don't run the show. Sometimes they also tell you how your hair and your makeup should be done. Sometimes you don't even have a say in that. So I, did this one video about everything. I said, you people think this industry, it's not like, oh, I could pick that outfit. Oh, So after, when I did that video, I just got upset about it, and I said, I can't believe these are people that know me, and unfortunately, a lot of people are not going to be supportive with you, especially with modeling. People, some people are funny with that, but, if you like what you're doing, you don't care what people say,
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I kind of like, I like being in the spotlight. I like being photographed. I like, fashion. I like makeup. I like, everything about it. I just like being in the spotlight. So I love it. So, but it's a tough industry. It's a tough industry, but
Yeah.
I enjoy. I meet a lot of new people. Met many different directors, different photographers, fashion designers. I mean, all kinds of people. You meet a lot of new people all the time in the industry. Made friends with models from my modeling school, and then I meet some new models when I go on sets for background extras, and then I meet new people. So you're always meeting new people, and you're networking, and you have to also you can't, it's kind of like you can't tell. It's like if you do a commercial, and you walk in thinking that you know what to do, and you don't listen to what the director tells you.
Yeah.
And you just do what you want to do, and he's telling you a specific way to say a line and how to do the expressions. And if you start becoming a difficult person, they'll show you to the door, because they're not going to deal with that. They don't like to deal with people that are difficult. And so if you develop a reputation of being difficult, and believe me, everybody knows each other in the industry. Everybody's connected. So if you develop that kind of reputation where you're very difficult, oh, I don't want to wear that outfit. I don't like that outfit. I don't want this. I don't want my hair to be this way. Oh, you can't be like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you develop that kind of a reputation, you're going to be out of a job. You can't be that way. This is a job where you're being told what to do. And if you don't like being told what to do, the doors, they take you to the door. You know, they'll show you to the door. I mean, that's just like how it is.
Yeah, and I hear stories, and I hear stories from people all the time. You say, you know, when you go in for an audition, if there's like a certain thing that you don't like, or if there's a certain role that you're not too fond of, but they're making you play that. If you say anything, they can say, well, there are like 100 people, you know, right outside who would take that job in a heartbeat.
Right.
So it's kind of the same, kind of the same mentality, really. Is it is it fast paced? The fashion industry? I imagine it would be.
Fast paced in what way? What do you mean by like?
I guess I guess because in my mind I'm sort of imagining, you're probably like working long hours and you're kind of like you barely have time to like sit down and eat, let alone sit down to try to, just try to process everything. You're kind of on the move all the time. Is that a fairly accurate statement or?
Well, I mean, if you do a lot of traveling, and you're getting one gig after the other, then it can get busy. But I've been in the industry for 2 years. It's like I get most of my stuff through backstage.com. There's auditions, you'd have to pay for a subscription, but at least those are verified jobs. It's worth it to pay for the subscription. It's not that expensive. And casting networks, I would advise. That's another that you could, and I think there's another one called Actors Access or something. They're paid subscriptions, but they're real jobs. They're verified. Because if you go on Facebook or something, oh my God, there's a lot of scams on Facebook. So you can't, you kind of like have to be careful when, they have like groups and stuff. And you have to like research it to make sure it's not a scam, because somebody's saying, oh, this is, a job here. And then if they're very vague about it, then you'd be like, okay, well, can you tell us a little bit more? When they're a little vague and you can sense it if it's a scam, you know what I mean? You can just pretty much sense it. But a lot of stuff on Facebook, you got to be careful.
So just to circle back, so that agency that you had to deal with the first time around, did you find them on Facebook? How did you hear about them initially?
You mean La Creme modeling and acting?
No. It was the one where it was the one that you said was a scam, the one that was charging you $4,000 for those photos.
Oh yeah. They weren't really an actual agency. They were like a scout, like a model scouting company. And they kind of made it, they gave you the illusion that they were an agency, So that's kind of like, they've tricked a lot of people. And I know a lot of people that fell for it, because when you're new at it and you don't know the industry, you don't know, many people have fell for it. And then I look back, I said, I can't believe I spent $4,000 on 30 pictures, and a website. And then they weren't even an agency.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to always read the fine print. I didn't read the fine print, but the way they were talking to you, they made it sound like they were an agency. So you got to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
There's also you got to be very careful. There was this. I can't name the subscription, but there's a subscription that I paid for, and it was a list of all magazines. And of course, if you do a photo shoot and you want a pic to be submitted in a magazine, you got to get the copyright release from the photographer, because the photographer owns rights of those pictures. So you need a copyright release if you want to submit any pics to a magazine. So I, subscribed to this website. Somebody had mentioned it. oh yeah, this is really good, this website, you have access to all these magazines. You have to pay for it, but you have access and you could submit to any, magazine of your choice. And if they call, if they accept you, blah, blah, blah. So if they accept you, then you got to pay to be in the magazine. Then you have to pay for the digital, you have to pay for the print copy. Then when I got the printed copy and I'm looking through it, I knew it was a scam because it was a picture book of all the models, just a picture book. And I said, wait a minute, there's no ads, there's no editorials, there's nothing. And the only way you can get this magazine is through an online website. You can't, it's not like you can find it on any shelves in a bookstore or in a supermarket. I was like, this is not right. This is a scam. I had to get out of it. And here I'm thinking, oh, I got published in a magazine, and it turned out to be like a scam.
Right.
And I spent money and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like learning, I'm like, my money has been out the door because of all these scams. And now I'm learning, what's a scam, what's not a scam. Like now I'm just starting to really understand now the industry and to be careful. But yeah, magazines, if there's no ads, no editorials, and it's just a picture book, scam. So that was another thing that I learned. And so,
Gotcha.
and I had to, I had to, stop the subscription, and I knew this was a scam. This was just, money, they're called vanity magazines. That's the term, I guess you would call it, vanity magazines. Those are not real magazines. If you don't see them on the shelves or anything, and you can only order it online, and it's just a picture book with no ads, no editorials or anything like that, or sponsors or anything in there, that's not a real magazine, so like that's something that I would tell like new models, be careful. And with agencies, you got to be very careful too. If they say you got to sign right now if you want to be with us, if they pressure you on the spot, that's just a bad sign. I just had an interview with an agency, and they weren't the actual agency. They were the middlemen to get to the agent. So what you would have to spend more money on classes, which I already did a year of. And then you would do a showcase, and you would be in front of these so-called agents. And I didn't want to do it that way, but I didn't like that, way of doing things, because I'm saying to myself, well, I did all this schooling, and plus I got experience too. And I'm saying to myself, do I really need to do this? I mean, I want to get to the agent. But then they were saying stuff like, I'd said to them, and then I looked at their Instagram account, and they've been in business for like 24 years. They only had 6,000 followers. I'm saying to myself, why, I'm like, I didn't say anything to them, but I was like questioning that, you've been in business for 24 years and and you only have 6,000 followers. So that must tell you something. Plus the account wasn't verified. I said to the lady that I was speaking to, I said, how come your account isn't verified? Because, so many other companies are pretending to be companies. So you want to make sure that blue check is right next to your business, especially in the modeling industry with all those scams. Because I go to the lady, is this your Instagram account? Blah, blah, blah. And she didn't even know. She looks at it. Let me see. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I said, the only reason why I asked is because I'm not sure if that's your account, because I don't see a blue check next to it. So why don't you have a blue check? Oh, it's not worth it. I said, well, why isn't it not worth it? I said, I have a blue check on my Instagram page, because there are people that have stolen pics of me pretending to be me. So if I'm going to be serious about my business, getting into, I want people to know this is the real me, There's a blue check next to me, and it's worth paying for it. Then I asked them, why aren't you accredited by the Better Business Bureau? She's like, oh, well, that's not that important. Well, why isn't it? You know, especially with the modeling, you know, scams that are out there.
Yeah.
Then she says, this is what I couldn't, was like a deal breaker. I was like, then she goes, oh, you know, this company is so great. And then she goes, my daughter got in with a great agency. And I wanted to say, but lady, you work for the agency. You got in easy. A lot of stuff is political too, you know, like you can fool maybe a young kid, but you can't fool me. I'm 57 years old, you know. I'm like, what? You know, so I was like, yeah, your daughter got in. Oh, I'm sure that's easy because you work for the agency. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh my, you know, like, you know, so you got to be careful. You got to really be careful what they say. And then I said, well, she's like, well, you know, no, it's not important that we're verified or Better Business Bureau, but you can read our reviews on our website. Your reviews on your website? I didn't, you know, say that to her, but I'm saying in my mind, no, you never read reviews on their website, because on their website, they're going to make themselves look so wonderful, and it's only going to be positive reviews. Every agency has had some negative reviews. So you want to go like on Google for reviews, Yelp, Reddit, check on Better Business Bureau if there weren't any complaints. The last place I want to look is on their website for reviews. You know, you never want to look on their website because they're going to make themselves look wonderful. You know, they're not going to have one negative thing, you know. So then when I looked at this lady, it's like, really? You know, I'm like looking at her, I'm like, I didn't say anything. And I'm saying, maybe you can fool somebody, but you can't fool me, you know, because I've been like fooled for a while, and now I'm getting smarter and smarter, and now I'm being very careful, you know, listening to people and, you know, what they say. And I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right, you know. So you got to be very careful in this industry.
So when she said that her daughter was working for the agency, was it that particular agency or was there a different one?
Oh, no, yeah, the other the agency that you mean that set up the portfolio and the $4,000, that was that they said that they were an agency, but they weren't. But this was an agency that you know, interviewed me. They wanted me to be with them.
Oh, okay.
But I saw all these red flags, and I'm like, I didn't like it. And they were the middlemen to get to the agent. They weren't the agent. And I'm like, I don't need any more classes. And I got experience. Plus, you know, I went to school. It was just a way to sell classes. And I was like, I don't think I need that. You know, it wasn't for me, you know. And then I did talk to somebody else who was the agent. But you got to be careful because, you know, they're saying that you're not supposed to, what they're saying is that you're not supposed to pay upfront costs to an agency. They're supposed to find you a job, and then they take 20% commission from whatever job that they, you know, found for you. That's really what you're not supposed to dish out. There is such thing as a free agency. You're not supposed to pay for anything. But if you have to pay like their photographer, you know, if you have to start paying all this stuff, then they're just trying to drain your bank account. They're not really going to help you. Now, it's okay that they can charge you some things, but really the ideal thing is that you're really not supposed to pay too much to them. You're not really, and they're supposed to just take 20% commission. They're the ones that are supposed to find you a job. You know,
So that's how it normally works. You're not because usually my understanding is, you know, is that if the agency is asking you to pay all this money up front, that should be a red flag because usually they take the money after, not before, right?
Right.
What about So another thing I want to ask you too. So is it common in the fashion industry for models to go through a middleman, or do models typically go through the agency themselves?
You know, I'm not saying that it's bad to go to the middleman to get to the agent, but for me, I didn't think it was worth it because I did the schooling. I got some experience behind me. I mean, if you're new at it, maybe, you know, it's worth it to do some schooling, because I don't, you know, I'm not against going to school, because with school you can learn a lot of things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You could take acting classes, you can take, you know, runway modeling classes, you know, all sorts of stuff. I don't, you know, that is a good thing actually. But, you know, they wanted me to spend like $2,000 more for 5 months of classes and then do a showcase in front of agents. And I'm like, but I spent already, you know, a year of schooling, and I spent money on all these classes, plus I have experience. I think I'm ready just for the agent. You know what I'm saying? So it depends on the person's situation. But I didn't think it was worth it for my situation.
So when you went to La Creme, you said you studied modeling. Did they teach you anything else, like any acting or musical skills or anything like that?
They did, like they help us, you know, give us tips with acting, and I remember we had to like practice our lines for a particular commercial, and you know, they had us recorded, but you know, she would always give us tips and stuff about that. She gave us tips about, you know, when you go for an interview, you know, how you should sit in the chair. You can't believe all this stuff that we had to learn. You know, what you should say, what you should do, what you should not do. We learned table etiquette, and you know, if you have to go to some dinner and you're going to be surrounded by famous people, you know, we had like an etiquette course, and you know,
So like know which fork to pick up, which spoon not to use, that kind of stuff.
That kind of like that kind of, you can't believe how much stuff there is to learn, you know. But yeah, and then you know, we had makeup, and then fitness, because you know, she says as models we have to, you know, make sure that we're fit. Even like if you're a plus size model, you want to keep your weight down, you know, just stay where you are. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to always try to stay where you are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Type of thing. So you have to always stay physically fit, try to keep your, you know, not change your weight too much. If your hair changes drastically, then you have to get new headshots, and then you have to, you know, change your portfolio. You have to always update it, you know. If you gain a lot of weight, if you lose a lot of weight, if you change your hair, you know, if it's like really drastic, then you have to get new photos and you have to constantly update everything, you know.
All right.
But it's I mean, a lot of stuff, you know, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, when you start out, you dish out a lot of money, you know, like, you know, if you don't know, if you want a specialist to do your hair and your makeup, you know, you gotta, you know, get a specialist to do it, and you gotta pay for hair, makeup, and sometimes you may have to buy new clothes, and sometimes you have to buy shoes, and then sometimes it gets to be very costly, you know, after a while.
Right.
But you know, it's kind of like, and then there's traveling expenses, you know, if you're going to gigs, sometimes they pay for it and sometimes they don't. And then sometimes, like, especially if you do background extra work, a lot of times you don't even get paid for it. It's okay if you don't get paid for it, because you can always look at it as, well, it's exposure, you know. It's exposure. You never know who could be looking at this. A movie director could be looking at you. A modeling agent could be seeing this. I mean, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So you never know. So even if you don't get paid, you know, you can always look at it, well, it's exposure. But after a while, when you're in it for a while and you're dishing out all this money, after a while, you're like, I got to start getting paid, So I'm at that point looking now for an agency where I want to now start getting paid, for what I do. Because,
Right.
So it's not a cheap, industry at first. You're dishing out money, but after a while, you want to make a profit after a while.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, you got to spend money to make money kind of
Right.
deal, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I was going to ask you. So just to go back a little bit. So after you graduated from modeling school, what was your first fashion show like?
Oh, well, my modeling school held 3 fashion shows, and then I was involved with many other fashion shows that I got through backstage while I was at school.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some after I graduated, because I graduated in June. In July, I was in a fashion show, Strike a Pose, and that's going to be on Amazon Prime. So I don't know when that's going to come out. It's not ready yet, but it's going to be on Amazon Prime. So I was happy about that. We're going to get film credits for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then in September, when I was at the Copacabana Club for Allen Action event for the Toys for Tots, that is going to be on a bunch of networks. I think I'm just trying to think. I think it's going to be on YouTube too as well, but I think it's going to be on certain networks. And then he'll send us he'll send us the reel, and we'll get credits for it, and we can always add that to our resume and all that. So I was really excited about those 2, because those were like, going to be recorded somewhere, Amazon, and that other one, the Sexy and Sassy at the Copa, it was called, in September. So that was fun. And yeah, so that, he had a lot of sponsors for that event. There was food, there was prizes, he was giving away like, vacation prizes and everything. It was a fun, fashion show too. There was a little bit of everything. It was a fun thing. Yeah. So you just gotta keep getting yourself out there.
So do you and this is gonna sound like a really, really stupid question, but I can't find another way to phrase it. Do you volunteer for these fashion? It just sounds so stupid coming out of my mouth, but do you volunteer for these fashion shows, or how do you go about trying to like, put yourself out there so that they know, oh, she definitely wants to be in the show. Let's put her in the show. Like, how does that work out?
A lot of stuff I get through backstage.
Okay.
They'll say, because what you do is you set up a profile of all your pictures. You have your headshot, you list your experience. It's all on the database there. So it's on a public profile. Anybody could see it. But then they give you a list of auditions, and then you get to choose, which audition you want to apply for. Like, oh, I think, and you have to, of course, you have to fit for what they're looking for. If they're looking for like a teenager, obviously that, I can't apply for something like that. Or if they're looking for, somebody,
like somebody's like 5'10", obviously.
Yeah, like I can't apply for those, because you'll be wasting your time.
Yeah.
So you have to look for auditions that best fit you. You apply for them, and then you hear back from them.
So when you audition, I mean, is it anything like going to the agency and just kind of like, doing a catwalk to kind of give them an idea of what they're looking for, or do they just look at your headshots? Like, how does that work?
Like, I know there was I think in April, I found this on Backstage, the Fly and Formal Fashion Show, and that was actually in New Jersey for a change, and not New York. And I said, okay, I'm interested, and whatever. And then they said, okay, well, you have to audition for this. And I said, oh boy. So I was a little nervous. So I was like, well, I went to school, so, I'm going to school for this. So I should know. So they just asked me was just, do your walk, because what they mean is your catwalk, and you have to have a good posture, and you have to do the catwalk and all that. And they don't make you walk for that long. And then they would like actually, they would like, record you. And if you have a comp card on you, which is like a business card, that always helps, because then they remember you, and it has all your information on there, and your, few best photo shots of yourself with your name, your email, your phone number, contact information, so they always remember you. When you go to any audition, it's always good to have a comp card on you. Mm-hmm. So I was like nervous. I said, oh my God, I got to audition for this. And I'm like, oh God, so and then, they're like, you passed. And I was like, oh, and then they had like some rehearsals, which was okay. And I went to the rehearsals, and then we did the show, and came out real good. And then there's some fashion shows you don't have to audition for, because every fashion show runs differently. What they do is they say, well, you have to, have 2 tickets purchased for this show, and then you don't need to audition, you don't need to rehearsal or nothing, and then you're in. So, a model from my modeling school, told me about this one particular fashion show, the Beautiful You Fashion Tour. Mr. Debonair runs that, and he is the sweetest guy. And he told me about this. He goes, oh yeah, this fashion show is like for all about diversity. Anybody can be in this show. All ages, all heights, all sizes, whatever. You can, but what the thing is, you have to sell the 2 tickets for his show, and then you don't have to worry about auditioning or anything, and you're in. So every, fashion show runs differently.
Right.
Sometimes you have to sell tickets to get in. Sometimes you have to audition for it. And there's no guarantee you'll be in it if they, they have to choose you if you audition for it. But every fashion show is different. Runs differently.
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense, because not everything that they're going to display is gonna fit one type of person. It's not gonna fit a common mold, as it were. So definitely I definitely want to keep us at an hour, because we're getting pretty close. But I just have a few more questions I want to ask you, because and I have so many questions that I want to ask about this. So when it comes to to modeling on a fashion show, what are the steps? I guess what's the procedure like to kind of get ready for for walking the catwalk once you've once they've said, yeah, we want you to be on our show? Like what are those steps, and what does that process look like?
Yeah, they just tell you, okay, you passed for the audition, and sometimes they'll say, here are the rehearsal dates, and if you don't show up for those rehearsals, you'll be just out, you'll be out the door, because if they have rehearsals, you have to show up for them.
Right.
Because there's this, maybe there's just they want you to walk a certain way down the runway or whatever. Every fashion show is different, and you have to go to the rehearsals if that is required. And then they'll tell you, where the place is, what time, and and then you have to show up. But if you don't show up, you're not going to be, they're not going to watch you, because then they're going to be like, okay, you're not going to know what you're doing.
Right.
They want you to be familiarized, with the runway and what they want you to do and all that. There's a lot involved, so if there's a rehearsal, you have to, go to it. So they tell you in an email, and they'll tell you all the dates and what you have to do. You know.
Well, I also imagine too. You also gotta do the fitting too, just to make sure everything works right. Correct.
Yeah, fittings, with runway shows, sometimes they'll do like, okay, a week before the show, they'll say we're going to do some fittings and you're going to meet some designers. And then sometimes it's the day of the show is when you're going to meet the designers. And then right then and there you have to try on, or they'll say, a designer will look at you. I think you could try this on. See, I think this might fit you, that kind of thing. Kind of like there's a lot of chaos behind the runway, back scenes, it can be a little crazy, but yeah, so yeah, and so yeah, it's
So,
crazy. It's a crazy industry. There's a lot,
oh yeah,
a lot of you're gonna meet, all kinds of characters and all different things, but you have to be able to pick up who's a scammer, who's not a scammer, that kind of thing. And but the longer you're in the industry, the more you pick up on these things. But when you first start out and you don't know anything about it, you just get so like the mistakes that I've made, I mean, I have to forgive myself for them because I didn't know the industry, but now it's like, okay, I can't make that mistake again, so I'm learning.
right.
You're always learning,
And it's refreshing too to hear someone such as yourself admit that, yeah, these are mistakes that anybody can make. Doesn't matter if you're 22 or 52. I mean, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I started at 55. I knew nothing about the modeling industry. I knew nothing about it. I just said, oh, I want to do this. And here I'm thinking it was so easy. Are you kidding me? It's not. Modeling or entertainment, it's not easy.
Oh yeah.
It's about they choose you. You can't choose yourself. It doesn't matter if you think you're the best for a part. If the director doesn't want you, he chooses somebody else. It doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do about it. There's just so many things that you have no control over. So that's what makes it hard, the industry.
And it's funny you should say that, because I actually interviewed a casting director last week, and she pretty much said the same thing. And she said, and she said, it breaks my heart to tell these people that they didn't get the role, but you kind of have to just power through it, because at the end of the day, you're not, you're not working for yourself. You're working for the producers, or in your case, the agency who's looking for the, for the talent.
Yeah, I mean, their experience, they know best, like a director, their experience, they know best who would make the best character, the right look. They need to, because then their movie is not going to come out good. If they pick the wrong character, the wrong look, everything has to be perfect. So you can't blame them. So if you get rejected, it's not like there's something wrong with you. It's because you're not the right person for it. So sometimes people take it personally. You're not supposed to take it personally. You know what I'm saying? It's not like there's something wrong with you. Same thing, with modeling agencies. It's not there's something wrong with you and you can't be a model. You're just not right for them. You don't fit. You're not going to fit in every box. You know what I'm saying? So what's meant for you is meant for you. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. And you have to not like take it personally. It's business, and they know best who would be for this role. They know who's best for this commercial. They know, I mean, their experience, so they know. So you can't take it seriously, like every rejection. It's part of the industry. You have to get through that. Don't, it's not you. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, because that's what we learned in modeling school. She says it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's just that they didn't choose you because you're not the one. And they have to, they're looking for a specific look.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's like that with anything, really. It's not just fashion or film. So there's another question I wanted to ask, and if you don't know the answer, that's fine. I've noticed over the past few years that there's been a shift in the way that that fashion shows are presented, or fashion in general is presented, because because now we're starting to see more body positivity. People who don't ne- who don't normally fit the modeling stereotype. Now they have a platform on which to to show themselves out.
Right.
Is that becoming more common, or is it,
Yeah.
or is the traditional modeling thing still still prevalent in the scene?
Well, the standard of beauty is still there. The women with the flat stomachs and the real thin and and being tall and all, but that's more like editorial, the modeling. That is still there, but there's commercial modeling where everybody else fits in. You know what I'm saying? So there's models that model in their 80s and 90s that embrace their wrinkles and they embrace the white hair. There's all kinds of models. There's plus size models, there's mid-size models, there's petite models, there's short models, there's tall models. There's a lot of they're actually, you see more and more unique looks now. Like modeling agencies are starting to look at unique looks of, like sometimes they'll be like, I'm looking for a model that has like a space between her two front teeth. I'm looking for a model that has freckles. I'm looking for a model like they're actually looking for like imperfections. And
Really?
yeah, they're looking for that because it's interesting, because what I guess what we want to say is that you can find beauty in imperfection. Beauty comes in all forms. It's not just one standard of beauty. It's like, it's unrealistic to say, well, all women must look like a Barbie doll, therefore they're not beautiful. But that's not true. Beauty comes in all different forms. So I think that's good that we have, body positivity, and I think that's good that, it's changing, and I like that. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it's great, seeing that include, everybody's included.
Yeah.
And they have in the Beautiful You fashion tour, he would have even people who are handicapped that go on runways.
I'm starting to see that now because
It's
because a
great.
lot of catalogs, you see a lot of people with with one arm, or they're in wheelchairs, or they've got crutches. Yeah.
And that's a great thing. That's a great thing, because you want them to feel like they're they're people too, and they have their own form of beauty, and I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it also kind of shows off the not only their beauty but their dignity as people.
Right. And and we're all different. So if we all look the same, how boring would life be, right? If we're not supposed to look the same, right? So
No,
saying one
absolutely
kind
not.
of beauty, this is one kind for a man and this is one kind for a woman, is just not really a fair thing to say, really.
I mean,
I mean?
yeah. But I mean, I totally agree with you, and it's kind of a relief, really, to kind of start seeing more diversity in the way that people are represented, because obviously it shows that it kind of gives off the message that you too can be on this billboard too. You too can be represented, not just the guy who's like 6'3", or the woman who's like
Yeah,
5'11".
yeah.
I want to go ahead and wrap it up. But before we do, Adele, if people want to reach out to you or they want to follow you, how can they do that?
Oh, I'm mostly on Instagram, musical girl into fitness. It's all one word.
Okay.
Because I, sing, and then you'll see some, I, work out at, Planet Fitness and stuff. And I have some funny TikToks of funny voiceovers. I know a lot about movies, good movies. So if you want me back for movies, I could tell people what's a good movie and what's not a good movie. My husband and I, we know what are the good movies, like the old movie classics. Oh my God. I'm like, my husband just taught me, see the director, did you pick that symbol? See. And I'm like, oh my God, so I learned so much from my husband. And
we'll definitely need to bring you back for many episodes, not just the one.
Oh yeah, I know a lot about movies.
Speaking, well, it actually transitions to my last point here, because I like to ask this of all my guests. What is your favorite movie or TV show that you're just dying to tell everybody about, that they need to drop everything and watch right now? What would that be?
You mean what's currently now? Because I like the old stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, it can be any movie, well, really, or movie or TV show, really.
But I think the best, oh my God, the best TV sitcom of all time is the Mary Tyler Moore Show, because that was a show ahead of its time. This was a woman, Mary Tyler Moore played an independent career woman, not married, and she was working in the newsroom, and all these, she, had to deal with her boss and coworkers and all these funny things. I kind of like the reality mixed with comedy type of movies. And the show was so well written. It was on a sophisticated level. And then the last episode, because, when you're doing a sitcom, you can't let it go on too long, because after a while it loses its luster,
Yeah, otherwise it jumps the shark,
So they have to, so the last episode, oh my God, was the most emotional episode. And then it had an ironic ending to it. And it was funny at the same time. It was emotional, but it was funny at the same time. And the way they ended it was just, that was an amazing sitcom. It was ahead of its time, because this was done in the 70s, and who would be writing about an independent woman, because women were still staying home and raising kids, so it was a show ahead of its time.
Yeah, because I mean, like nowadays, I mean, you write a show about an independent woman, it's like, well, I mean, what else is new about this show? But I agree with you, because I remember seeing some episodes when I was a kid, way back in the day, and this was a show that probably got a lot of people up in arms, because they're like, what the hell is this? Where's the husband? Where's the male interest? He should be taking over, not her.
And what I loved was the song, the Mary Tyler Moore song, and then where she throws the hat in the air and she's in the middle.
Yep, and then a freeze frame. Yeah.
It's like a symbol of freedom, happiness, independence. It was like, it's all different emotions when you look at that picture. You know what I'm saying?
It's pretty iconic.
Yeah. It was just clever. It was just, everything was done the way it was supposed to be. I mean, the characters were funny, and it was amazing show. Amazing. That was an amazing sitcom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Its kind will never pass its way again.
Yeah.
But Adele, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on this podcast, and I plan on having you back for many future episodes. So just let me know what your schedule looks like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we could talk about. I could tell you all kinds of movies that I could suggest people to watch. I mean, I'm still surprised that there's some people that have never seen The Graduate before. I said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Are you crazy?" And let me be honest with you. There was this one lady that I used to work with, and I said, "Oh, you never saw The Graduate?" She said, "No." She goes, "But I saw Shades of Grey, and that was really good." I said, "Shades?"
Really?
I said, "That's garbage." I said, "The Graduate will beat that 10,000 times. You got to see The Graduate." She never saw it, but I said, "You got to be crazy."
I mean that intro where Dennis Hoffman's on the escalator, that clearly inspired the intro to Jackie Brown, 30 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry. I watched Jackie Brown recently, so I'm just dying to bring that up. Um, but Adele, like I said, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on this podcast, and I just
Oh,
want to thank everybody. I just want to thank everybody.
It's nice to be on this show, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
I was really excited about this, and I even posted it on my Instagram page. I said, oh, I'm going to be on a new podcast, and subscribe to this channel, learn about movies, learn about all different guests, and you can learn so much about movies too.
Yeah.
Like a movie that at the end you learn a moral or a lesson.
Well, the good ones anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've watched any of our reviews over the past few months, we just trash every single one of them.
Really? Oh,
we
God,
learn nothing at all.
I got it. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's you don't. It's hard to see a good movie anymore today. I don't know. I like the old stuff. I don't know. It's just unbelievable. The old stuff is so much better. I don't know. Once in a while you'll see something good, but I like, reality drama mixed with comedy, that kind of stuff. I'm not into like Star Wars or King Kong, or I'm not into that kind of stuff. Like the imaginary, I'm not into that. It's not like it's a bad thing, but it's just not me. I'm not into it,
That's fair.
like horror stories, like movies. Oh, I'm still, I still get goosebumps from when I was younger when I watched The Exorcist. and it's like I don't think I could watch any more of these crazy, movies. I think that's based on a true story, by the way.
Yeah, it was. It was based on a case in St. Louis back in I think 49 or 1950.
Yeah.
Which makes it even more chilling, the fact that it was based on something that was supposedly real.
Yeah, and that was scary. And then I was like, I can't. Like my husband's okay with watching horror stuff. I said, I can't do this. I can't watch this. I can't watch this. But comedy mixed with reality and with a little drama. Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Realistic movies. That kind of stuff. Is what I like. I like the old classics.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, like I said, remember to like, comment, subscribe, y'all, and thank you so much for taking time to watch this episode, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.
Great. Well, thank you so much for